Do. Dun, 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 Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How you doing? How is everyone doing today? Blah. Give me a minute. 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Don't worry. All right. Oh my God. All right, where was I? Trying to adjust this stuff. I'm doing well. Thank you all for the kind sentiments, etc., etc. I'm just being really random right now. I don't know. I feel like talking to people lately, so this is my thing. I'm a sporadic individual. But oh, sorry, I gotta clean that off. Okay. May Allah bless all of you. Why would it be a permanent thing? Why? What's wrong? You guys don't want me back permanently. You already have everything you need in the online Daosphere. I'm teasing. So, right. I have nothing really to talk about right now. I'm just chilling. So it's a random discussion right now. I did buy some new stuff that I think is interesting. It's not important. It's just fun stuff that I purchased recently. So you're gonna think it's childish, but I don't care. So I got these two bad boys. Yes. So that's fun. I'm gonna add those to my collection pretty soon. So yeah. And right now I'm cleaning my gaming Switch, the one that I play on the most. So, what do you guys want to talk about? The amiibo cards are more practical if like you're trying to actually like use them. If you just want the rewards, that's fine. That makes sense. But I like actually collecting the amiibos. I think they're really cool to have just as figurines. A reaction video to what? I've been studying what's the thing? Assalamu alaikum. Not studying, but I've been researching the whole red pill thing recently. A lot more because I'm actually going to hopefully be doing a paper on it. Oh, the price for the Galaga, that up there, that's just like a metal poster basically. That was like $30. I use the amiibos inside the games too, but I like just having them. Yeah, I'll probably release the paper. It's going to be an independent thing. I'm not going to publish it in an academic journal or anything like that. I have research papers I'm working on that are going to be published in academic journals, but they're not related to the subject at all. So I'm like, I'm considering reopening my website, but I don't know if I should because it's like I really don't want the attention. Okay, there it is. Are those figurines allowed to display? They're cartoons, and they're not really made in the image of people, and the intention behind them is purely for the sake of entertainment. So I don't see a problem. Although I'm sure there are people who are far more conservative in that opinion than myself. Okay. Oh. All right. I am familiar with Shahid. Yes. Coming back and finishing Robert Spencer. I don't really to be honest with you, after I finished the second video, or technically the third video in the Robert Spencer series, I think that was enough. Sure, I've been through the whole book. It's pretty nonsensical. I can go through it in the entire thing, but honestly, the feedback that I got from that and the response by Robert Spencer himself indicated to me that the last video that I did was sufficient because a lot of people got turned off by his message, and he himself was very angry with me. In fact, to this day, I think he speaks worse about me than anyone else he's ever talked to in the online scene because I made those videos. So yeah. Graham Hancock, no. Are you an INTP? Is that like a personality thing? I don't know. I mean, it seems like there's a trend. Every time I write something against somebody, they get really angry and then they treat me bad, but they don't actually respond to the stuff that I write. Yeah. A collab. I'm not really doing any podcast or anything anymore. I don't know what I collab about, to be honest, bro. I got nothing to say. I mean, I have a lot to say, but I don't see what the point of me saying it is. So, let's see. Recently, I posted something on my Facebook that I thought was interesting. I think it's always good when Iran and Saudi Arabia uh, mend things back, but the only thing that I have a problem with is what's the reason? Because Saudi is becoming a little bit more liberal now, and with many of its own policies within domestically. So that's not necessarily a good thing, even though unity is good. But what's the real reason behind it? Number one. Number two, if China is behind it, I'm very wary of that. Because I don't know who trusts who here, but I Hamza Yusuf, I think, put it best. It's like be wary of who you want to be your masters, because even though Muslims we should want to be independent from these world powers, we want to be our own superpower. Right now, the U.S. and its allies are terrible to us. Obviously, they've destroyed our countries. They've invested us in negative ways and stole our resources and stuff. But would here's a question I would ask you: if China was the one in power, what would they have done? And that's something that and I'm not saying about Chinese people, I'm talking about the Chinese government. Okay. Right now, what are they doing in China against Muslims? They're literally genociding our brothers and sisters. Um, they're literally like they don't care. Like they just don't care. They'll just kill you. Like, you know, I feel like if China had invaded Iraq and Afghanistan, it would have been far worse. Because for them, it's like at least the U.S. they try to do like they try not to like they try to follow some policy, some law, but I feel like the Chinese would just nuke the whole freaking place. Like they don't care. Like they would just kill everyone. You know, they literally would not care. Um, so be wary of who you want your masters to be. Let me just put it that way. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You know, Um, Again, it's not about Chinese people per se. It's about that government, that society. They're extremely hostile, more hostile than even the U.S. And I don't, I would be very wary of having them in power over the Muslims. Like, ask yourself another question. As a practicing Muslim, would you fare better in the United States or in China? So that's something to consider there. Um, yeah, man. Canada, yes. But yeah, that's my opinion. I think it's very shady. Because when I was in Malaysia, I don't know if there's many Malays here. I do know one brother here is Malay, that I've seen. But ask any Malay here who understands Chinese politics or and Malaysian. My bad, bro. Satu Malaysia. Okay. Tapa. So, um, so the thing is, ask any Malaysian, but the reason I also reference Malay specifically, but ask any of the Malaysian Muslims how the Chinese play politics in Malaysia, and then ask them who they would prefer to have hegemony, either the U.S. or China. And I think 100% of them are going to say U.S. Okay, and there's a reason for that. And the Muslim apologist who is currently in the chat could probably explain that. Oh, come on, man. I think the blunders, but certain, I wouldn't even trust them as a counterbalance. I think the blunders, but certain experts within science and politics, COVID lead to people to becoming skeptical in general. I think that the issue, Guy Strike, that a lot of people don't realize is like the skeptical side of things is that, okay, so we understand that scientists are flawed, right? We all agree to that. They're not infallible. Okay. Now, when COVID came around, it was so fast in the way that it spread around the world and it was infecting people and killing people off. I mean, it usually takes a couple of years to really understand a virus and to formulate medicines. Okay. And when you have to do a rush job because many people are dying and you're trying to stop a plague basically from happening, you're going to throw out as much as you can to try to defend yourself against this thing, even if it's half of it's wrong because you're desperate. And I think a lot of scientists were pushed to the edge with respect of how to deal with this virus. A lot of politicians, a lot of companies were like, you need to get something done now. We need something now, like now. That they were just rushing out there with every opinion they could find, anything they could think of to stop this thing. So over time, as they learn more about it, yeah, they're going to come out and say, "Hey, we were wrong about certain things." But I don't think that's a reason to be skeptical of them per se. I think it's more reason to trust them actually, because they actually came out and they corrected themselves. It's not like, but a lot of people who were doing the conspiracy theory stuff, that didn't help at all. Even if some of what they said came true, it didn't help at all because they kept acting like there was this nefarious intention to hide things and to politicize things. And it's like, no, you're literally dealing with a new thing that they'd never seen before, and they were rushing to find a cure for, or a vaccine for this thing, or find some way to stop it. Um, and they just didn't have time. And so, yeah, they're going to get a few things wrong here and there, right? So that's my take. Now, is it possible that some of these scientists and companies had some, political influence or something? Yeah, sure. It's possible. But more likely, the scientists who were giving out information about COVID and stuff, They literally were in that situation where they just didn't know as much as they wanted to about it, and they were just trying to react, because for them, they were seeing all these people dying around them, and they didn't know what to do. Yeah, it gets really messy, but you see the problem with our society too is that we look to scientists as either they have to be either infallible, or if they get something wrong, then they're always wrong. That's the extremes that a lot of people take, and it's ridiculous. you know. So, about the red pill stuff. So here's what red pill is about. So I found probably the best summary of red pill, because a recent paper came out. It was actually not too recent. It was 2021, but I think it was alhamdulillah, I'm doing well. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And it's a perfect summary that explains the mentality behind it in an academic fashion, and so you can understand kind of where they're going and what they think. And it's something that I've been reacting to. If you're on my Facebook, you'll see I've been pointing the stuff out. But I think this is a really interesting quote. Okay, and I'm going to read it to you. So this work was written. This paper was written by Van Valkenburg, and in 2021 is published in 2021, and it's called "Digesting the Red Pill: Masculinity and Neoliberalism in the Manosphere." And it's a kind of a long quote, but bear with me. I'll try to make it exciting as I read it. So this is part of the paper from pages 89 through 90, and also I added 99 for the conclusion. Okay. So starting the quote: while the heroes of the Matrix aim to revolutionize the relatively impermanent relationship between humans and machines, if you understand that context, that's from the Matrix movie. However, the sidebar, which is the name of the Red Pill Manifesto, they call it the sidebar, asserts that the Red Pill's primary goal is not to fundamentally change society, but to give heterosexual men more power in pursuing individual sexual relationships within the existing system, albeit a system which is initially hidden from them. Explicitly opposed to postmodern understanding of sex and gender as social constructions in flux, the sidebar, or red pill, assumes that the human nature and behavior are essentially unchanging and rooted in biological determinants. Thus, red pill suggests that it is less committed to changing the rules of the game and more concerned with discovering those rules and discussing them for the purpose of men's personal sexual advantage. As such, red pill resonates with economic assumptions of meritocracy. Okay, so this is the beginning part. It goes on. If cutting through the illusions of a sexual matrix is a liberatory precondition for finding individual sexual success, the sidebar, or red pill, claims to value scientific truth in particular. Indeed, it construes feminism and gender studies as the polar opposite, precisely on the grounds that the former's position seems to be shaped by opinions and values rather than empirical evidence. Okay? Their thoughts and ideas are based in idealism rather than directly measurable truth. And thus it seems that liberalism has become the religion, doing that which obeys a set of ideals, to the pragmatism of science. This series of dichotomies, the conservative, scientific, pragmatic, objective, and masculine on the one hand, counterposed against the liberal, religious, idealist, subjective, and feminine on the other, permeates the sidebar. The observable world is considered the only valid source of empirical data. Okay? The objective analysis, which informs the sidebar's conclusions about human nature and society. All right, so I'm reading from an article. So let's continue, though. Here's where the analysis comes into play. So he's summarizing their perception of themselves. As such, the sidebar insists that its philosophy is quasi-positivist. Any of you who have seen my lectures know what positivism entails. Essentially, it roots itself within scientific claims about the world without going beyond that. Okay? And it only sees truth through science. Okay? And that sort of experience. Now, the red pill's underlying philosophy, as expressed in the sidebar, can be understood as an extension and acceleration of existing cultural norms, not opposition to them, but actually an extension of them. How so? Insofar as it privileges scientific rationality and integrates common economic discourses involving meritocracy, rationalization, quantification, and market-based exchange in its seduction ideology. According to O'Neill, Such the economized sexuality is a symptom of neoliberalism, which disseminates the model of market to all domains and activities. In other words, they're classifying red pill as a neoliberal perception, an economic neoliberal perception. So it's liberalism. True to form, while the sidebar is explicitly devoted to understanding sex in numerical terms, the goal is frequent sex with women, uh, and it presents zero discussion of how to make sex enjoyable, suggesting a broader confusion between means and ends. If the sidebar denies any needs for emotional connection, it encourages the pursuit of sexual relationships that resemble commodity relations. Again, remember what I've been talking about before? About how these boys, these red pill boys, see women as commodities, as objects to be possessed, to be sold and purchased and used. This is the summary. This is why, because they're borrowing from neoliberal perceptions of reality, secular economics. That's why they see relationships like way. That's why they talk about women as products. That's why you hear things like age like milk, because they literally see women like things that can be bought and sold. It's not simply an analogy. That's literally their perception. Okay. So, yes, they believe evolutionary psychology and evolutionary biology are not only just facts, but that's not the biggest issue. The biggest issue is that they impose that evolutionary psychology and biology upon human beings in such a way that we cannot transcend those things for like our values or our beliefs. So, for them, basically, scientific determinism or determinism is what should um, determine how we behave. In other words, for example, if evolutionary psychology came out one day, and they have actually, there's been papers on this that suggested that rape is the best method of spreading your genes, or is the best means by which to get mates, this is something that they would have to logically follow. So it's more like biological determinism. So it's like whatever your biology says is what you have to do. Um, And the thing is, too, a lot of people don't realize this red pill stuff is not about changing society. They say, well, it's counter feminism, but in what sense? Because what red pill teaches is not counter feminism to come back to some sort of Islamic understanding. It's not even trying to change society at all. The purpose of red pill is to make men adapt to the society so they can get more mates. It has nothing to do with changing society, and it's coming from a neoliberal Western traditional perspective on women and men. It's purely rooted in the sort of Enlightenment scientific philosophy, positivistic, deterministic understanding of things. It has no outside motivation and then there's some brothers like, well, if we add Islam to it, it's fine. It's like, really? Because what that sounds like is the same what feminists say when they say, let's add Islam to feminism, because feminism is also a liberal idea, right? And then somehow that's going to make it better. And it's like, no, it's not. So why are you trying to do it to red pill? That's exactly what it is. The point is, if you want to Islamicize red pill, Daniel, and that's what I'm trying to get at. If you want to Islamicize red pill, then we can't at the same time get mad at people for trying to Islamicize feminism. Either you throw it out. I mean, you can take bits and pieces from both in a sense of saying, okay, well, that person said this true. That's fine, even though it's not in the right context. But to say that, oh, I follow red pill or I'm going to adopt the red pill ideology and then Islamicize it, that's dangerous. That's no different than saying, people who do that to democracy or secularism or anything else. It's just I just find it funny. I'm not saying you, by the way. I just find it funny how so many brothers and sisters out there, like any semblance of any outside thinking within Islam is negated immediately. There's something wrong with that person's methodology. But the moment that red pill comes into the picture, suddenly they look the other way. I find that extremely problematic. But anyways, yeah, that's that. But it also explains some other things because, like, I don't know if you've seen. Did anyone see that? And this is public, so it's not backbiting. This is something that happened recently. So you saw that Instagram thing. Everyone know who's Mahdi Tijani is, whatever his name is. Everyone know who that is. I'm pretty sure you do. The guy who bragged about, you know, not seeing his wife's birth. Okay. Um, anyways, so recently he had a not too recent, but he had a stupid picture he posted up where he was topless and he had his wives rubbing his stomach. Does anyone know that? They were covered, but he was still rubbing his stomach, right? So, and he's trying to show off basically. Okay, so some of you know what's going on. So if you saw my post about that on Facebook, because I posted about that, it's public. Um, I said very clearly what it resembles because the reality is that a lot of these guys who consume this red pill stuff, they're also, even if they're not explicit about it, they're actually engaging in a Western sexual kink. I don't know if you're aware of this, but anyone know what BDSM is? I'm sorry if we're getting kind of vulgar. You know what BDSM is? Anyone know what that is? We're not going to get into descriptions too much, but essentially it's a sexual kink that a lot of people engage in. Not everyone, but it's a thing. Yeah, 50 Shades stuff. Okay. So in general, the BDSM kink, there are two types of people generally in the BDSM kink. They're called DOMs and subs. So a dominant person and a subs person. And they generally play the whole, in some way more extreme than others, but usually it's like a master slave relationship. And they actually get off on this. Like they actually become aroused by this. Like being treated like a slave arouses the sub, and being acting like a master who controls the slave is seen as a sexual arousing method for the dom. Okay, and usually the men are the doms. All right, even like beating and stuff like this, they like doing it. They think it's really enjoyable. So what I'm starting to see is like these sort of behaviors that you see online now, like this Masjid Jajani guy, is very um it's very reflective of the BDSM lifestyle, and it's like he's trying to Islamicize BDSM. That's basically what it looks like. Um, so yeah, that's basically what's going on here. Is that there's like an Islamization of sexual kinks, and this is what these red pill guys are really kind of pushing for. And recently, even I saw this really ridiculous video by this guy named Devin or Devon or whatever. I don't know if you're familiar with this red pill guy, but he has videos. I think I'll actually link to one just to show you. It's not explicit or anything. Don't worry. Um, Actually, I shouldn't show that video because I think his wife is not covered very well in that video. Anyways, but the video was very disturbing because somebody linked it to me and they wanted me to see. And I watched it. And so this Devin guy is his whole video is about showing how he trained his wife, trained her like a dog, basically. And the whole video, and let me just explain what it's about. So it's in the video, he's showing like examples of how to treat a woman. And no, it's not Shapiro. He's an African American brother. I don't know. I'm not joking. He treats her like a dog. Like so, basically. So here's the thing. So he has one video where like he takes her to the restaurant, and he's like, in the video, he's trying to explain to men how to train your wife or train your girlfriend, right? So he's in this restaurant, and he's going to the restaurant, and he says, "Open the door for her." Okay, so it starts off fine, right? And he said, "Let her walk in front of you for now." Only in the beginning. So you're like, "What?" Then he gets to the counter, he starts talking to the hostess, the person who's supposed to seat them, and he's like, "Flirt with the hostess in front of her to, like, make her jealous or something," right? It's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Then walk in front of her, and make sure to walk in front of her so that you show that you're in command," right? Then it's like they sit down, and it's like, and when the waiter comes to take her order for her, and make sure she doesn't look at the waiter. She's not allowed to look at the waiter, right? But he can flirt with women, but she's not even allowed to look at the waiter. Okay. And after that, he's like, walk her out and walk in front of her And then like when you get to the door to leave or something, open the door for her, and then there's like, a guy walks by, and then she puts her head down, so she basically lowers her gaze. He's like, make sure to train her well so she never looks at a man when he walks by. It's like, dude. And then there's like some other videos, and like at the same time he's preaching about how you can hit on other girls and stuff, right? It's like this. So it's not even, there's not even like a mutual respect. It's like she has to submit to everything that he wants for his own insecurities, but he can do whatever he wants. Basically, that's what it is. Um, and then he's got videos where she's asking him like, "Oh, can I go out with my friends?" And he's like, I don't need, I'm not your father. You can do whatever you want." And she's like, "But didn't you tell me that if I go out with my friends, um, then you won't be with me anymore? Like you'll break up with me?" And he's like, "Yep, that's what I said." And she's like, "So what happens if I go?" And he said, "Well, you can either go with your friends or you can stop being in a relationship with me." That was basically the video. And she's like, "Okay." So like these whole like little training videos are basically he's like demeaning her and basically making it appear as though she's like completely reliant on him and that he has absolutely no, doesn't have to have any respect for her whatsoever or anything, right? It's basically like she's a dog. Like I'm not joking. Like it's not even like Haya or Gleira. It's like it's literally like she is a dog that serves him, and if she does anything that's wrong, she's put out in the street. So that's basically what this guy is preaching about how to be a man. It's disgusting. No Muslim would behave that way with their wife or behave that way in front of their wife. Astaghfirullah. It is oppression. It's actually abuse the way he's treating her. It's abusive. That is abuse. Wallah. Yeah, it's disgusting. Literally the most disgusting thing. Yeah, you keep hearing this stuff. Oh, red pill is just rediscovery of traditional wholesome values and masculinity. That's BS because their understanding of wholesome values and masculinity are Western traditional male understanding of masculinity. Traditional male understanding of masculinity. Again, traditional male American Western understanding of masculinity, which is what feminism was created from. Has nothing to do with us. It is neoliberalism because it primarily views relationships in economic terms, which is what a lot of atheists even view, even though they don't. Well, they act like they do, but they try to be, they behave like humans, like real humans would in a relationship usually. But the way that they preach about values and stuff, you notice how atheists, they'll talk about chemicals and reducing everything to like material things, right? Because they can't transcend, their values can't transcend beyond that. It's the same concept. The red pill are pushing for the same crap. Uh, it's exactly what it is. Flavorlessly, that's correct. That's exactly correct. That's exactly how the Jahil pagan Arabs behaved before they became Muslim. They treated women like commodities, like things to be sold and purchased. This was their form of masculinity. That's literally how they treated women. They buried children, they buried girls, they buried them because they were a burden. Do you understand? Like, this is exactly the mentality that's coming back. This is what a lot of brothers are adopting. And they're like, no, this is wholesome traditional values from men. It's like, no, it isn't. This is atheistic, capitalistic understanding of relationships rooted in jahil, non religious, valueless beliefs. Um, See, but that's a problem too, Supreme Message, is that this extreme reaction is never something that works. It's something that we can expect, but it's not something that works. It never works. It's like it's blowback, and blowback always goes away eventually. It's never effective. It's bad to have. It's not a good thing to have. It's not a good thing to anticipate. But that's all it is, because when you react to something without having a strong foundation, then you stay reactionary to the point of just going away. Yes, a lot of extreme feminists reject the idea of being a housewife because honestly, their whole perception of the patriarchy is rooted again in Western views of gender, male and female relationships that they're reacting to. Honestly, I'm going to be frank with you. When they universalize the idea of this patriarchy they have in mind, this oppressive understanding of men and women, they universalize it across the world. I think that's wrong because not all societies behave that way with women. But when they use the Western model as context, it makes sense. Because if you look at the way that many Western men treated women in the past, it was terrible. It was just terrible. Like it was insane. Um, Mhm. ChatGPT, yes. The future of AI, I could go into that a lot. Um, yeah, because I'm actually studying it officially as part of my job. Actually, it's one of the things that I'm studying because I'm one of the emerging technology librarians on my campus, and one of the things that I study is literally AI and metaverse stuff all the time. So I'm going to be publishing on that hopefully within the year or two. But yeah, so ChatGPT is something that I'm looking at closely right now, and it's already accelerating, advancing at a very rapid pace. So we are looking at it very closely right now. Let's just put it that way. I can't make any conclusions yet, but we are at the forefront of researching this stuff. I saw the new update. Yes, exactly. Final boss, because as you know, as I've taught in my lectures before, liberalism, all of these liberal ideas are all reactions to each other because liberalism itself is a reactionary ideology. It doesn't have a foundation. Liberalism is about what? Freedom. Freedom from what? Because you can't have freedom has no makes no sense without asking where it's freeing itself from. What is it freeing itself from? And when your entire ideology is based on freedom, you're always going to have something to free yourself from. There's always going to be something to fight. Yeah. What does a research librarian do? Well, it depends on what you're researching and in what specific field. So, subject librarians tend to be the ones who do research on that particular subject. And what we do is we essentially assist other faculty, and we add to the research for that general subject. Number one. Number two is that we assist with curriculum, and we also assist in creating research projects um, for other faculty. And we also what we do is we'll preserve and we will document and we will make people aware of that research. That's a very general definition I'm giving you, but essentially we are support units for other researchers, and we give a lot into the research itself as well. So, I mean, like, so to give you a practical example, if a professor is researching something, right? If a formal researcher researches something, they will often go to librarians to assist them in finding all the other metadata or other research that has been done on the subject. And they will oftentimes utilize us to assist them in going through databases and stuff like that, and then uh, consolidating materials. Based more than literature review, we can help them do their literature review, but we also look at the substance of things. Um, these places are being aided by the Illuminati lizards. Yes, they're funding it. Let's see. Yes, the problem with ChatGPT is even though it is accurate in many of its in providing information and references and things like that, it doesn't help you to actually to understand how to research or what the process is. In order to actually utilize it, you have to trust it. And the thing is that um, when it comes to like novel research, it can't do that for you. It can only the thing that people don't understand about ChatGPT is that it's not thinking. It's simply collecting what other people have already thought about. So as a researcher, like so if I let's say ChatGPT is released now. So if I release a paper in 2024, ChatGPT is not going to be able to reach the same conclusion as me by 2024. It requires my research in order to provide an answer. Does that make sense? Exactly. It's just forming patterns. I think that the Ockright, the red pill mentality is very much a reaction. It's very much compensating again, as usual. Same way that we compensated when we did the whole scientific miracles thing, just being frank. Um, probably worse though, because now not only are we adopting Western perspectives with red pill and feminism, but at the same now you see a lot of these. One of the biggest problems I have with red pill is that I use a tarot. Yes, sorry, I'm looking at the chat at the same time. One of the problems that I have with red pill, the biggest problem is not even the adoption of the ideology per se, but the adoption of the etiquette and the behavior of red pill people. Um, does that make sense? Like the complete lack of the complete lack of a clock, the slandering and the libeling and the grandstanding and the posturing and the alpha and the betas and the simps and the cucks and the whatevers and the soys and the just all of this the memes and the disgusting that's why I wrote that post about the whole destiny situation. It's like you guys, you sit here, you complain you're all day long, and then at the same time it's like you behave just like they do. So why are you complaining? Just stop. It's just disgusting. I am tired. Mm, the data isn't there. No, I didn't. I don't see the point. He's behaving in a very low class fashion. I'm not going to try to reason with him, and I don't have Twitter anyway, so I couldn't message him if I wanted to. But it's disgusting. I think that utilizing it for to plagiarize is bad. Yeah, I think that's wrong. Is there a reason for you ignoring my question? I skimmed your question. I'm just not interested in really getting into it. I mean, you want just a general answer, or what are you looking for specifically with that question? Because when people ask me these questions about other people, sometimes they have certain intentions in mind. So I need to know what your intention is prior to actually answering it, if it's worthy of being answered. That's my personal view. Because there are some people coming here, they want me to hate people, or they want me to, and I'll answer, but it may not be the answer you like. So it's up to you. Let me know. Anything else? Does red pill need a purification? No, red pill needs to be done away with the same way that feminism does. There's no point in having it. I mean, I've never look. Let me put it this way, and I'm going to be very frank with you guys. Okay, first off, as somebody who grew up without these pills, it's very hard for me to understand why they're needed, in many respects, because it's like even if you're talking about at the base level of like finding women or something or getting with women, that was never a problem for my generation. And I'm not trying to brag about it. I'm just saying, like, it's just weird to me that now all these young men are suddenly like, we need to know how to be men. It's like, okay, that's weird. Fine. Number two, um, number two, what is it that I was going to say? Yeah, that was it. That was basically the main reason. So that's one thing I don't understand. Number two, the whole red pill thing seems to me to be evidence that these people haven't read our tradition at all. Oh, here's the intention. That's what I thought. Okay, so the intention, thank you for being blunt, Salem, or Salim. My intention is your opinion of him supporting the freedom of insulting the Prophet Muhammad, supporting gay marriage and LGBTQ. Well, my understanding of those so-called things is that they're not true, because after watching the video and reading his responses to these things, his first opinion was that he believes that Americans in the United States should have a right to say what they want because he's afraid that if we start to implement laws in the US banning people from saying something bad about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that they will return then start to ban Islamic literature for saying bad things about Jews or Christians or about non-believers and start oppressing Muslims. And he would prefer that not to happen. So he says, yes, in that speech, he said he wants people to have the right in the US to insult the Prophet because he's afraid that the Muslim community itself will then become oppressed as a result of that. Now, you don't have to agree with that or not, but I do find that to be sound reasoning, especially if you're living in a kafir state. Like, they would be, like, first off, we shouldn't even be demanding them to do those things because it's not Sharia. So, secondly, if you start to say that you can't say this, then what can they say in return? Because there's a lot of non-Muslims in the U.S. who would like to ban the Quran. So is that what you want in return? So that's just something to consider. Number two, he's never supported LGBTQ. I know that for a fact. I've spoken to him personally and in public, and never once have I seen him support LGBTQ. Not once. He's always been against it. He said that it's wrong and that it's not in our tradition, and that's it. So if you're referring to the article that he wrote with respect to with respect to what was it? What was his name? The sheikh. I forgot the sheikh that he was debating with in that. I think he retracted. He very clearly retracted that position a few months later. So yeah, that was also based on that one was based on shoddy reasoning though. That was wrong, and I think he very clearly retracted it. Uh, well, anti-Semitism, yes, in the sense of nationality and race. But then when you start to do ideas, that becomes an issue because then a lot of other groups that are considered hateful can be targeted. And that's something you have to be very, 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 very careful about because the US, the moment a law comes into place, we have these things in the US like called precedent. So, for example, if you say one thing is banned, then somebody can sue the state or sue the government and say, well, then we should ban this too. And they can actually make a case with the Supreme Court saying that there's a similarity. And then suddenly everything starts getting banned left and right. And then you have chaos. So we have to be very careful about that. The US is very sensitive when it comes to law. Like, you can't just make a law because then there is a huge avalanche that happens after that. Um, it was Sheikh Shadi Al Masri, yes, correct. Well, Gus, you have to be clear. Look, you want to be brave and stuff, alhamdulillah. But the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made bigger concessions for his community than we're willing to do. We have Muslims who are willing to cut people's heads off immediately for even whispering something bad about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. During the Prophet's time, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he had to make treaties with people that were completely contrary to the health of his community. Like, as in, if somebody reverted, for example, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, please correct me if I'm wrong. If somebody reverted in the pagan eras, they couldn't come to Medina, and if they tried to escape, they had to send them back to be oppressed. Now, today, if a Muslim leader made that same treaty, what do you think Muslims would call him? Exactly, Asif. Probably worse than that. They probably call him a munafiq, astaghfirullah. Well, isn't making a law and pure freedom of speech making a law? Yeah, but I don't see what the argument that you're trying to make is. I mean, there's a lot of we have to understand something too. Like, not people always take this the wrong way. They think that nuance and complexity is like a liberal reformist thing, and it's not. Look at our tradition. Look at how the scholars used to treat uh, works of fiqh. Like, we have volumes on like on whole like 12 to like 20 books talking about one subject matter and all the different variances and things like that. They're very particular, very specific about things and different possibilities and consequences and benefits, etc. In the same way, every legal system in the world has to be treated with some sort of like measure of respect with regard to how it's analyzed, at least, right? When you say things like, well, this could happen, yes. Likewise, you have to understand that in the US, when you make a law banning one thing, US law requires that is universalized for things like it. So they use like analogous reasoning. Okay, qiyas, right? So if you make the argument, for example, that insulting the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or even in what's considered insult by us, right, and that's on the books, then suddenly you have to say, okay, if that's the case, then we have to move this to other religious groups. You may say that's fine, but then other groups will say, like non-believers will say, well, yeah, but we think the Quran is insulting us. It says we're going to be in hell. It calls us worse than as animals, right? And it says that we are unclean. What do you think that's going to do? And they get all upset about that, right? And then imagine they make a case, and there's more of them than there are of us, and they make a case between the Supreme Court, and they pressure the government to get rid of this. Or would you like that? Would you like that situation, or would you prefer that some idiot out there, some unknown person, starts insulting the Prophet, and we're allowed to say something back? Hey, that's wrong. It's still a bad situation. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I don't like hearing the Prophet's name insulted, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But I would prefer to be in that situation than a situation where the entirety of our faith is being persecuted now and prosecuted to the point where we can't even practice. And that's an issue that I don't want to see. And it's not about compromising. It's not even necessarily about being silent. It's about restraint. In the same way that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was restraining himself in many situations, when they were throwing stones at him, when they were spitting on him, when they were beating him, okay, when they were trying to murder him, when they were murdering his own companions, lashing them, putting rocks on their chest, boycotting them, destroying their lives in general. There was restraint. He wasn't being a coward. Astaghfirullah, anyone who would ever say that. He wasn't being a coward. Astaghfirullah. He was restraining himself. He was restraining himself to wait for the right moment to respond. He was waiting for he was being wise in his response. That's what I'm calling for. That's what I'm trying to say. That's the Quran and Sunnah. That's what a lot of Muslims do today. And no offense, but I have to be frank. What a lot of Muslims do today is when they see insult, they immediately go to something crazy. They'd make death threats, like the whole Destiny situation. It's completely haram in the sense that even though he was doing something horrible, they were like responding and saying they're going to kill his mother. Not everyone, but some of them were like, we're going to kill your mother. They were putting pictures of his mother, saying they're going to kill his mother, his aging mother. Like, what the heck did she do? In their impulsivity. And then when they were responded to saying, hey, you can't say this, they said, don't you have ghairah for the religion? Don't you have ghairah for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? It's like, that's not ghairah. That's not jealousy for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he wouldn't do that. He wouldn't want you to do that, astaghfirullah. That's an insult. Don't say that you have ghairah for him if you're going to do something haram like that. Astaghfirullah al-azim. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You want to murder somebody's family, and then you say that's ghairah? Astaghfirullah al-azim. Astaghfirullah al-azim. That's you. That's your nafs. That's your own insecurity. That has nothing to do with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If you had ghayra for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you had any sort of protective jealousy, you would behave in accordance with what he demands. And again, I'm not yelling at anyone here. I'm yelling at those people. Do you see what I'm saying? Astaghfirullah alazim. Apatheism is essentially a nihilistic behavior. But even like insulting his wife, like what was the point of that? She didn't do anything either. Like, yeah, okay, he's a cuck. All right. Just say he's a cuck. You don't have to be like talking about his wife and how she's a slut or all this other stuff. That's not appropriate. Like, okay, yeah, but she didn't do anything to you. You know what I mean? Like you're going beyond the bounds. And then I even saw some Muslims posting pornographic stuff, like literally porn against him to hurt his feelings. Like you shouldn't even be looking at that stuff, much less posting it. Astaghfirullah. Like, come on, man. Like, do you honestly believe? Ask yourselves, brothers and sisters. You've seen this 4chan meme behavior there. Is that something the Prophet ﷺ would engage in? Or the companions? It's like, could you even imagine that? Astaghfirullah. I can't even, that filth, I can't even imagine them behaving in that low class. That's just inconceivable. I'm done ranting. Okay. Yes, Vasim. So here's the thing. I've disagreed with Jonathan Brown on numerous occasions. In fact, mostly in private. We've had a lot of discussions. In fact, she's even referred to me on many times to ask my opinion about things related to philosophy. So not trying to brag or anything. I'm just saying. So we've had disagreements, and he's also understands that these sort of arguments I'm more, experienced with. And he's made mistakes, and he's also retracted them. And even Shadi al-Masri, in that debate article that they wrote, he actually agreed with him eventually. So Shadi al-Masri, who is more traditional in terms of his perspective, convinced Jonathan Brown to change his opinions. MashaAllah. So we should be happy about that. Alhamdulillah. We should say that's a good thing. MashaAllah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless both of them for having that discourse and them resolving it. That's what we should be saying. But we have a lot of brothers and sisters, and again, I'm not anybody in the chat per se, who are still attacking for even having that discussion and saying that Jonathan Brown is this and that. It's like, dude, stop. Just stop. This is just, it's just inappropriate. And wrong. You can respond, Shoaib, and I understand it's difficult, but what I'm trying to say is that if we truly want to defeat our enemies, if we truly want to fight our enemies, we have to do so still within Islamic parameters, because that's the only way we're going to win. And if we start to, it's funny because a lot of these brothers and sisters, again, I'm not talking about anybody in the chat, a lot of these brothers and sisters who are doing all this stuff, you know what they keep saying? One of the things they say, we can't be liberals because we'll go down the lizard. It's like it's following the lizard into the hole. It's going down the lizard hole, right? We can't be like the liberals. We can't adopt the kuffar's ways. But then when it comes to their behavior, when it comes to their communication, they do 100% without any limitation. To me, that is such a hypocritical thing to do. It's like, okay, we won't adopt their ideas, but their behavior we're going to adopt. So it's okay to be un-Islamic in that regard. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Islam is not just about what you believe, it's how you behave, right? Exactly. And also the other thing I knew about Destiny is that he was going for that. That's what he wanted. He wanted to see those death threats. He wanted that reaction because he wanted to make a point. And the thing is, they fell for it so easily. A lot of other people, and we're going to stop talking about this because I don't want to talk about this anymore, to be honest with you, because he's not really that relevant. But I remember responding. I said when I made my little post about Destiny, and I didn't even mention his name. I just said he was a video game streamer. Some other Muslims came under my Facebook post and were like, he's not just a streamer. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, what do you mean he's not just a streamer? And they acting like he was like a government head or something, or like a ruler of a country or something, like he had all this influence. And I'm just like, dude, what are you talking? Yeah, he's a video game streamer. Like, that's exactly what he is. You're making him sound like he's like Genghis Khan or something. Like, relax, bro. Like, he doesn't have any major influence over the world. Like, that's what happens when you get so absorbed in the online world. You assume that these people have more clout than they actually do. Like, the reality is most Muslims outside have never even heard of Destiny. They don't care. Or if they have heard of Destiny, they've never even seen him even post this stuff, and they probably don't care. Like, you know what I mean? It's not affecting their lives. Like, relax. I'm not saying relax about the insults per se, but I'm just saying stop acting like these people are something that they're not. They're not anything. And I've been saying this message for a long time now, guys. Like, a lot of these ex-Muslims, for example, um, it's funny. What is the thing? It's funny how we when it came to the ex-Muslims, we were talking about how they're nothing, right? Even though they have 500,000 subscribers or millions of subscribers or whatever, and like, how these people are nothing. They don't have any real jobs or anything. We were saying that all this time. But the moment like these other people come by, suddenly we want to act like they're big deals. Like, oh, these guys are like, oh, they're the biggest influence in the world. It's like, no, they're not. They're just like these ex-Muslims that we used to deal with, like the Apostate Prophet and Abdullah Samir, and they're nothing. They have no clout. They have no lives. They just sit online all day. They're just completely irrelevant to the real world, how the real world works. Stop making them into something else. They're not that. They're nothing. Literally. That's why they're here online, is because they have nothing else to do. That's why they post constantly. That's why they tweet constantly. That's why they stream constantly, because their whole entire career, their whole entire existence is online, where they have no influence. Do you understand that? Like, think about it, guys. If you walk outside today, is Destiny, is he the one controlling how the world is? Is he the one making the laws? Is he the one changing the economy? Is he making all the technology out there that we're using? Is he doing anything that affects your life? And ask that question and answer it for me right now. Anyone can give me a solid reason that we should take this guy seriously? Anyone? No. Exactly. People who are perpetually online because they're in that bubble. This is where the world is for them. Exactly, guys. No. And that's the truth. I'm not trying to be patronizing. I'm just saying that's the truth. It's objective truth. So, but if you live in this bubble online, that's all you're going to see. And one of the reasons that I keep telling everyone to leave this bubble, you can come by every now and then, like I'm doing, right? But to leave this bubble and go into the real world is because you'll start to notice that this bubble doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean much, right? I promise you, get offline, get off Twitter, get off Facebook for a while. If you want to keep one of them to stay in touch with family and stuff, that's fine. But just don't post for like a week or two. I promise you, your lives will change. Like, you're not gonna care about any of this stuff. I post about it occasionally because I think it's interesting, and I'm talking about it right now because I think it's interesting. But it doesn't control my life. Like, most of the time that I use is for work, taking care of my family, going out, eating, playing video games, and I come back and I chill with you guys every now and then. It's okay to come here occasionally to have communication and stuff like that, but don't obsess about it. Don't make this your life. This is not your life. So we're done. Yeah, Ozzy. So I mean, like, the ex-Muslim, because we moved on from the ex-Muslim movement, did you see what happened? They fell off, right? It wasn't because they just died by themselves. They died because they no longer have an audience. That's literally what it is. I mean, that's literally what happened. People got bored of them. That was it. They were thriving off of our reputations for a long time. That was the reason they still kept going, because of our reputations. That's, believe it or not, that's what happened. But when we stopped refuting them, they just left. They just kind of nobody cared. Like, it was just it. So like, even like when people were fighting with me um in the comments and stuff, like, it doesn't affect me as much anymore. Like, I don't care. Like, I look at these guys and I'm just like, God, you're losers. Okay. Like, I'm drinking coffee at work, like, looking at these comments. I'm like, "How do you guys have this time, man? I can't believe I put this much time into this before." Like, no offense to guys who are on here doing Dao and stuff. I know you guys have good intentions, but I'm just saying, like, this whole stuff is just so stupid. Like, um, glute tear injury. Do you have any advice to actively exercise? Okay, Salam. So first off, you need to take it easy. If you haven't been already, you need to. If you're going to do exercise, it has to be very light. Before that tear heals, you're going to have atrophy, get muscular atrophy. I had that when I broke my leg for about a year and a half. It's going to be a long. I don't think you're going to have as much of a problem because I broke my kneecap. You just have a tear. So when that heals, I mean, it's never going to be perfect, but you need to literally stay off it for a while. You can work on your upper body for a bit. Personally, I would work on your core the most as you're healing because that's really what you need. That's your essential muscle group, I think, and that'll help you actually build back your the muscles in your leg where you have the tear after it heals. But right now, I'd really take it easy. Don't worry too much about you're going to lose some weight or you may even gain some weight. So try to focus mostly on your stomach right now and leave the rest alone for a bit. You can work on your arms a bit, but you don't want to get too unbalanced. But I would really focus on getting that six pack. That's what I would do. How to lose fat and gain muscle during Ramadan. Be active and don't eat too much. So, oh, wasn't alive when research was done traditional way through books. ChatGPT will be help in facilitating research, but it will never actually do research. That's the thing that people need to understand. Humans will still need to do research because analytical skills and the way that we form paradigms and ideas is something that that an AI can't do. AIs can only find patterns, but we create those patterns when it comes to belief systems and things like that in society. So that's something we have to understand. But it will definitely help us. You're looking at like a Jarvis, hopefully one day, but hopefully it doesn't become Ultron. But anyways, I'm just trying to look up because a lot of people said stuff early, and I can't see. Yeah, Islam is not reactionary. Islam is just based on obeying Allah. True. Yes. I privated that video. I just like playing with the titles now because I think they're fun. Uh, Fragrance recommendation depends on your taste. I have probably very different taste. Gaming is actually alone time for me unless I'm playing multiplayer. I do want to stream eventually. I mean, I'm still thinking about doing it. I don't know if I have time to be honest, because I have to invest a lot in that. Because people like I just end up talking to myself, which I already do. But, that's you're not supposed to know that. Whatever. So it's like, what's the point of filming myself talking to myself? Um, so actually, I was going to play in a second here. I'm playing Pokemon right now. But yeah, this is basically all I've been playing. These, can you see that? So, so I have a big backlog I haven't gotten through because of these two games. Um, but yeah. Oh, to do. Yeah, I got Scarlet. I'm like 40 hours into Scarlet right now. And Splatoon 3. Okay. Let's see. You can just read this. See how many hours I'm in Splatoon 3 so far. Can you see that? Oh, it's backwards. It's probably backwards, right? Can you read it backwards? Okay. Okay. But you can read how many hours I put into Splatoon 3 so far. Um, So yeah, going back to that point, guys, be angry, respond accordingly to people when they insult the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can be angry, be passionate, have that that jealousy, that protective jealousy, but just remember how he behaved. Remember how the companions behaved. And even though we have instances where the companions were sometimes crude or harsh in their responses, that wasn't the standard. You have to understand that. Okay, they didn't behave like that all the time. So don't make that an excuse just to build on your ego and your nafs. Okay, it's okay to be angry, but we have to learn how to control the way that we're angry. We have to learn how to control the way that we speak. That's why we're different from the kuffar, because we're not impulsive, because we're not just going to do whatever the hell we want. It's because we have standards, right? So that's yeah, yeah. Ash's voice on show was played by a woman. I know that. I also know that Goku and Vegeta in the Japanese versions are also played by women. So in Dragon Ball. Naruto as well, yeah. I'm not ready to get Decidueye yet, even though he's one of my favorites. And when I played Pokemon Sun and Moon, he was my starter. And actually, he was my starter in Arceus as well. I actually love him a lot. He's a really cool Pokemon. Oh, are you challenging Nabil? Are you saying that I accept evolution? I'm just curious. I accept most of evolutionary theory, yes, in the same way that a lot of the people that you probably follow accept evolution. Because, for example, one of the reasons that red pill is so popular among a lot of Muslims is because they like evolutionary psychology, which I find fascinating. It's funny. A lot of Muslims are like we're against evolution in total, but when it comes to evolutionary psychology for red pill, we'll utilize it 100%. That makes no sense to me either. But okay. Um, I actually never played the Budokai Tenkaichi games. Yeah, I used evolutionary stuff to argue for Aisha being 9 years old too. So I'm fine with using evolution as long as you say that Adam and Eve are unique creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I'm fine with it. Otherwise, yeah, that's a problem, but that's not all of evolution. Anyone who knows anything about evolution knows that that the idea of human origins is still very hypothetical among many scientists and is not actually the essence of evolutionary theory. In fact, most people who study medicine and general biology in the Muslim world always study evolution, even if they don't call it that. A lot of concepts from evolutionary theory are still being utilized today. I blocked everyone. I blocked a lot of people. I don't remember blocking everyone. I still utilize. Well, that's fine. I'm happy that you don't care about that. That's fine. But I'm just being frank, because there's a lot of people who keep claiming that I. So I made this. So for those of you who don't know, I made a mistake in my reasoning before when it came to my understanding of evolutionary theory and what can be applied in the Islamic tradition. But I corrected myself a couple months later after it was pointed out to me. And to this day, some people are harassing me about it because, again, we have this problem in our community where you can't make a mistake because if you're a dai, you have to be perfect, apparently. Um, so yeah. The difference between me and some of these other duat that some people revere is that I actually admit to my mistakes. But whatever, that's for a different discussion. Yeah, there are certain elements, like for example, we can argue that there's an evolutionary argument that religion is natural. That's fine. Um, But when you start to say that people have to behave in accordance exactly with a certain evolutionary pattern, that becomes an issue, because human beings are not just their biological traits, right? Like, so for example, just to give you one that would conflict with morality, is it I'm gonna argue with this. As males, as we are stronger, would it not be an evolutionary advantage for us to simply rape women instead of asking for their consent? Why do we have a society where we require that? Where we require to treat women with respect and dignity? Wouldn't it just be more advantageous for the male part of the species, to be more like cats? Because you know how cats behave, right? Does anyone know how cats mate? They don't ask for consent. Male cats will literally jump on a female cat, pin her down, and just basically, I mean, they don't understand what rape is, but that's basically what they do. Um, you know, they don't. The female cat tries to run away sometimes, even, and it doesn't work. So the male will literally overpower her and just rape her. That's how. That's why there's so many kittens everywhere. It's not because the female cats are sluts, or it's because male cats they just literally just go around raping everything they find. um, So, I mean, of course, they don't have a concept of rape. So for them, there's no moral problem there. But for us, we can't do that, right? But it would be more advantageous for males if we could just literally pin a girl down and do what we want with them, pleasure wise, and also spreading our genes. But we don't do that because we have values, we have morals. We hate rapists. We kill those people. In some societies, we should kill them, right? We put those people in jail. Mhm. Reach me via email. I don't really answer emails. Let me be honest with you. The best way you can reach me, I still have my Yakin email that I'll check from time to time. I'll put in the chat. That's basically the only place I would really respond, but it'll take time. So I apologize. No problem. JP has become a butt of a joke now. He was never really a pragmatist, even. Like, he uses pragmatic arguments that I think are good, like especially when he's arguing against Sam Harris. But then he goes into this crazy psychological babble where he tries to back everything with evolutionary psychology, and it just pisses me off because no civilization is based on that. No civilization was based on those ideas. You know what I'm saying? Like, nobody's like, yeah, let's form a society based on evolutionary psychology. Like, no. Like, even his own ideas about secularism and liberalism and stuff were not based on evolutionary psychological like things. Like, it's people don't function that way. We have base biology, of course. We have base behaviors, but society is not formed based on on the base level, right? We have these complex legal codes and interactions and cultures and beliefs that transcend the evolutionary imperatives that we have in many respects, and many times actually. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, stop. Like, like you can't explain all relationships through that. That doesn't make any sense. Like, unless they're like the most superficial people. This goes back to why the red pill is also problematic too, is that they always they reference like women that would be attracted to these sort of guys. They reference like the most superficial, like unintelligent women that would be attracted to this stuff. Like, okay, and I speak from experience here, and I'm not bragging about it. Okay, I'm just saying, because I used to be non-Muslim. I used to date around and stuff because I was a secular liberal person, right? Before I was Muslim, obviously. So I will tell you this: none of the guys that I knew who were successful, even myself, at being with women, ever had these ideas. Like, those type of, like, we would see guys like that who actually had that sort of mentality, and they would always be the most unsuccessful, number one, or two, they would have the most superficial companions who would leave them in like moments, like you know, they were just pathetic. We would always make fun of them, right? Like it just never worked, right? So I'm telling you guys, if you think these red pill dudes are coming in from like, and they're saying like, hey, you get all these girls and stuff like that, it's like, no, dude, no, they're losers, man. Like they're losers. No, he never said that the story of Lut was not about homosexuals. He said the story of Lut was not about gay marriage, and it wasn't, because they didn't have a concept of that. They just did whatever they wanted. I don't even think they married in that society. They just had sex with each other like crazy. So he said it wasn't about gay marriage. I appreciate it. Oh, I know what I'd do if somebody like Mahdi tried to marry my daughter gets old enough and I went on this guy's. You already know my answer, Vasim. I posted about this. If anybody like Mahdi who talks like Mahdi were to approach my daughter and I found out about what he does online, I'd tell him never to talk to my daughter again. Never talk to me again. Like, he's disgusting and I don't want to have anything to do with him, because he would see my daughter as something to be like an asset, and he'd probably abuse her. And I don't want that for my daughter. I want my daughter to be treated with dignity and respect as a Muslimah, as a human being who has her own thoughts and her own personality, and who deserves to be dignified and respected as that in that manner. I don't want somebody who is just going to be used as a trophy for some other male. My daughter is not something to be mate guarded like a chimpanzee or a gorilla. Okay, she is a Muslimah. She is a person. Okay, um, that's all I have to say. Even if it's a role, I don't respect a person who plays a role like that. Like, why would you degrade yourself? That's like, have some dignity. Why would you play a character like that? Have some dignity. Um, there are a lot of people I disagree with heavily. That, yes, I believe they do good work. Like Sajid Lifman, I can give a lot of credit to, but there are some people that I can't stand because they they constantly lie, and they're constantly hypocritical, and they're clearly doing things for the wrong reasons. And those individuals I can't give any credit to, only because I feel like even if you consider some of their stuff good, it's thrown away by all their other bad behavior. Even our scholars were like this. You have to understand, like, I don't know, many people don't know this, but um, the scholars were very adamant about something when it came to getting information from people. So when it came to deviance, the majority of scholars did not consider your deviance. If, like, say a person was deviant, they did not consider the deviance as a means to reject certain things. So if it came to like hadith, for example, they didn't care from what sect you were, as long as you could be trusted as a person. So they looked at your behavior as a trustworthy individual above your belief system, above whether or not your aqidah was perfect or not. Okay. However, they were very clear. There's basically ijma about this, that if even if you had the correct views, if you lied, if you were known to be a liar, they would reject your hadith. They would reject even what you were saying. Even if they knew it was true, you would have to be rejected. Even if what you said was true, you had to be rejected. So in that way, I followed that tradition, in the sense that I'm not against certain people completely because of their beliefs per se. I'm against them because their behavior means they are not credible. Even if they say 1 + 1 = 2, I cannot say that that person said that. Okay, because that person has lost credibility in the eyes of our tradition. That's the actual method of our scholars that a lot of people don't seem to realize. That is true. Yes, there are Maturidis. I'm not saying these are deviants, by the way. I'm just saying that people who have considered each other deviant in the past. There are Maturidis, Asharis. There are Mutezila, who have been narrators of Hadith and Tafsir and other uh, um, usul, right? But they're not rejected because of that. They're only rejected when they lie or they commit a crime of some sort that would make them lose credibility. So that's something we have to realize. So yeah, when you see me here like saying like guys don't listen to this person, I'm not saying it because I think that person is a this or that. Or this person has a certain belief or I don't care about I do, but not to the extent that you think. If they have a deviant view, of course that should be pointed out. But the reason I say don't listen to this guy or this guy, and you know who I'm talking about, is because they have shown a consistent pattern of lying, exaggerating, slandering people, libeling people, engaging in conspiracy theories that have no validity whatsoever, constantly behaving like the kuffar in terms of their speech and behavior. I mean, this is like, to any scholars, this is completely like this person is considered a jahil, completely not lost credibility. It doesn't matter if they're based or if they're like saying true things sometimes, like, oh, Hindus are bad or Hinduism is bad or something. Okay, fine, whatever. Halas. Even that, you can't take from them. It's over. It's done. Halas. Unless they repent, you cannot take from them. It's done. So, I mean, that may not feel good to you. That may feel like you feel uncomfortable because maybe you like the person, but that is the way of our scholars and our tradition. And that's something that you need to learn and accept. Okay. We take the good from the bad, but in terms of when it comes to a reference, like you can't use that thing as a reference or that person as a reference. Right? Like I can take good from things, but I don't have to take it from there. Like that person is not the only person saying things. In fact, most of the arguments that they use, the good ones at least, came from a lot of people before them. Hell, he even borrowed from me. Like his whole video on Fitra was based off my research. Like, bros, no offense, I'm just being honest. Like, I wrote 2 whole papers on the very subject. I've made videos on the Fitra before. I've made whole arguments based on the Fitra. I've argued based on the Fitra. Like his whole video on the Fitra is based off everything that I've basically argued before. Like. But everyone wants to say, don't listen to Asadullah because he's fighting with that person. It's like, come on, man, give me a break. Um, you know who I'm talking about. No, astaghfirullah adim. Astaghfirullah adim. Let's be frank, Sadim. Again, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm just trying to clarify, okay, about the mate guarding. Mate guarding is when a male within a particular species, or even a female in some species, will do certain behaviors to make sure that other males can't have access to her. Okay, that's the general thing. We're not going to talk about the specific behaviors, but that's the general definition. The hijab is not mate guarding for a number of reasons. Number one, it's not defined that way in the Quran and Sunnah. That's number one. Number two, a female who is not married or under the protection of her father at the time before marriage is not being mate guarded by her father, astaghfirullah. Nor is she being prepared for mate guarding by wearing the hijab. She is wearing the hijab for her own dignity and her own modesty. She is not being mate guarded. Okay. Even if she never gets married, she is not practicing mate guarding when she wears the hijab. The hijab is separate from mate guarding. The hijab is for her own dignity and her own modesty. It is for her. It is not for her husband. It is not for her father. It's not for her brothers and sisters. It's for her. Even in that sense, even to that extreme, or not extreme, but even to that um, I don't want to say something negative per se, even to that maximum of veiling, that is not mate guarding. That shouldn't be perceived as mate guarding. It's for her and her alone. Um, now, a male should guard his mate, yes, in the sense of like protecting her, even to that extent. Thank you. Like protecting her from other people, but the hijab itself is not for him. It's not a way of mate guarding. Does that make sense? Like there's no, that should never be used as an argument for hijab. Especially for, because it makes no sense for single sisters, especially. Um wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. So I hope we're clear about that. Right? There's no mate guarding with hijab. That's not the point. Or veiling. Um, that is for the woman's dignity. Um, but is there a form of mate guarding in Islam? Yes, that is ghaira. That's what men do to protect their. But it's not necessarily from other men per se. It's to protect them from being harmed. It's not to protect your wife or your sister or your daughter from being accessed by other males, but being harmed by other males per se. Right? Does that make sense? So it's not the same as like animals do. I'm sorry. That's completely, that is not what we do. I don't want to reduce it to that. I think that's very crude, and I think it actually degrades the hijab. I think it insulting to the hijab by saying that it's mate guarding. That's why I want to avoid using that. Yes, it's guarding her. Yes, but it's not for the sake of the male. Like when I protect my daughter, it's not for my sake. It's for her sake, right? Like I'm taking care of my daughter. Like I'm willing to die for my daughter. My daughter is not being protected from me, right? So we need to be clear about these things. We can't use these evolutionary terms to refer to these things. They have no similarity. Yeah, this is nonsensical stuff. Majuscule. Like I don't abide by any of the stuff that's being preached now. It's ridiculous. Yeah, there's a side in the sense that yes, it also helps males to lower their gaze. But again, that's not mate guarding, right? It's just, that's to increase modesty throughout society, to help increase modesty throughout society. Um, oh, walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. It's okay. You can come anytime you want. You don't have to be sorry. Yeah, there was an argument made recently about mate guarding and gorillas and stuff. It's insane. I don't even want to get into it. Um, I don't think I'm going to bring the channel back. I look, to be clear about the channel, guys. I'm not interested in being in the scene anymore. I'm only here like randomly at times to talk to you all because I like talking to you guys, and just seeing what's going on. But generally speaking, I'm really outside of the scene. I don't want to give you the impression that I'm going to come back. So if I bring the channel back up, you guys are going to think, oh, he's preparing a video or something. He's going to do some stuff again. I don't want to do that. I'm not motivated to do that, to be honest. I believe I did engage with that work in the work, right? Minor Marriage in Early Islamic Law by Carolyn Bow. I think I even referenced it. Maybe I didn't, but I think I dealt with it in some respect. Nabil, I can't do that because I have actually attempted to in the past. I've actually offered olive branches, especially in the article that I wrote, and he basically spit on it. He lied about me. He continued to slander me and libel. He's doing it to this day. So I can't trust a conversation like that because he's not even being honest outside of it. So I am writing a book, yes. My daughter is doing well, jazakallah khair. The article is archived somewhere. I think it's on archive.org. No, I don't think it because the hijab again has to be worn outside of being with a mate. And a father is not mate guarding his own daughter. A brother is not mate guarding his own sister. That doesn't that's that's that would imply incest. Like you're not you know what I mean? Like you're not trying to prevent males from getting your mate. Like you're no. It's not because mate guarding implies possessing a mate and wanting to exclude her from other males. That's what it implies. That's not what's going on here. Um, I think I would have been dealt with that argument in a much deeper sense by explaining the purpose of hijab first off, and then in a more appropriate manner, and then yeah. Not that I wanted to debate anyway, but I don't see the point in debating that individual. But I don't know. No, I would not be comfortable with multiple women talking to my wife and having laughs and talks at them. But again, that's not the hijab. In the like, that's my ghaira. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's me wanting to protect my wife. There is jealousy there, yes, but that my jealousy, my ghaira is not the hijab, right? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, we have to separate the hijab from the husband and the father. The jealousy, sure, I guess you could say is a form of mate guarding, but the argument that was being made that I have a disagreement with is that the hijab is mate guarding, and that's false. That's a deviant opinion, being frank. That has nothing to do with Islam. Like that's basically implying that hijab is for the male, and that's wrong. That's not true. The hijab is for the female in both its value and its purpose. Um, and ultimately, it's for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's what I'm trying to clarify. We should not make the hijab about a man's honor. The hijab is not our honor, it's the woman's honor. That honor is separate from our own. How we behave with the women, how we protect our women is what is our honor. That is our honor. But her honor is the hijab. That is her honor. Hers and hers alone, right? That's what we need to understand. And when you say that hijab is mate guarding, you're saying that that's the male's honor, that she has none outside of, of him. That's my issue. So, and I'm clarifying for everyone here, not just you, Salim. So, it guards women from other males, but not in the sense of mate guarding. It's not for the purpose of making sure the male has access. Only one male has access to that woman. That's not the point of the hijab. Okay, you did. Again, the honor is in our behavior towards the woman. It is not in the hijab itself. So we enforce because we're enforcing Islamic rules. We are implying that we are trying to protect her modesty. If we do not protect her modesty, then yes, we are dayuth. If we don't attempt to protect her modesty, we're dayuth. But we're not protecting her modesty for ourselves. We're protecting it for her, because our job as men, our roles as men, are to maintain and protect women for their sake, not for ours. I know it's going to sound crazy. A lot of guys hate this, but we have to be honest. Part of being a good man, a good Muslim male, is that we realize, and a lot of guys are going to hate when I say this, especially the red pill dudes. We men, you and I, all the men in here, we are expendable. Listen to me. I'm not saying we're valueless, but when it comes to women, we are expendable. We will die before they do. Do you understand? That is our job, whether we like it or not. And to be an honorable, noble male is to accept that and not complain about it. That is what we were built here for. That is one of the reasons we were built, is to protect the women and children. And if we have to die first, so be it. And that is an honor. That is an honor. That is an honor. Again, let me emphasize that, men, that understanding, that realization, that is an honor. And a lot of the red pill guys, they're the ones complaining about it. I'm not joking. They're like, well, we should be like, like they're trying to make themselves feel like they're better. Our superiority is in our strength and our ability to die like that, to be disposable. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that we should be thrown away, that people should treat us that way, but we should be proud of the fact that we are willing to lay down our lives to protect the people we love like that. Okay, to protect our women, to protect our children. Okay, that's something we should be proud of as men. That should be something you should be proud of. Like, that's what makes you a man, bro. That's the reality. That's the feeling that you have in your heart. That's what being a man is. Take it on the chin, because that's what it is. That's how civilization has been built, because we men have been willing to lay down our lives for the sake of the women and the children, in war and otherwise, in building the infrastructure and everything else. That's how the civilization was built, because men, real men, cared more about their lives than they did for ourselves. What the red pill guys are saying is that care more about your male self than the women, because we live in a gynocentric society, and and everyone cares about women. Yeah, you know what? Everyone does care about women, because that's how civilization is, because men care about women. We built literally the cities that we build, the conveniences that we build. What are they for? Are they for the men or the women? Come on, guys. It's not being a simp. This is just the truth. What do we build all these anemones for? What do we build all this air conditioning for? And the running water and the medicine? Do you think it's really for us? Or to make sure that our baby girls and our baby boys and our wives are taken care of? Right? So when all these red pill guys come around saying, "Oh, you're being a simp for women because you want to take care, you will care about their feelings, you care about their health," and shut up. That's civilization. Shut up. Just shut up. Okay. It's not feminism. The woman is always going to be more important when it comes to family. She's always going to be, even the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to the children, who are the ones that you respect the most? The mother, then the father. The mother, then the father. The mother, then the father. Why? She's the one who carries you. She's the one who takes care of you most of the time. She is the future. The wife, the woman is the future of the species. She's the reason that the family is a family. The male exists to take care of that, to protect it, to make sure that it's sustained and keeps going forward. If we die in the process, so be it. That's how civilization is built. If you don't like it, get out. So, now my wife is asleep. So, but that's the truth. And these guys think that's simp because they think the family is supposed to be for the male. The woman is supposed to serve the husband. That's the primary function of the woman. And that's actually not the reality. She serves the husband, yes. She benefits the husband while he's trying to protect her and take care of her. But the reality is he's actually in service to the family by protecting, by being that authority, by being around. He's not a leader as a privilege. He's a leader as a responsibility. That's not a simp thing. That is honor. That's nobility. That is being a male. That is being a real man. When you require, when you ask, when you think the woman is your vending machine that has to serve you like a slave, you're not being a man. You're being a little boy who hasn't left his mother's breast. That's it. Anyways. Okay, I'm done now. So. Evolution. Most of it's true. The stuff about humans having ancestors and stuff, that's not true. Or at least Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve didn't have any ancestors. Adam and Eve were a special creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whatever else existed at the time was evolution, but whatever. I went with Quaxley because he is the most Spanish out of all the others. No, a woman has an obligation to serve, but that is not her value. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, there is service being done on both sides. It's a different type. A woman is obligated, of course, to play her role within a marriage. No questions asked. The context of my statement here is that in contradiction to all these red pill guys is that we are supposed to serve our families by being expendable. We're not supposed to see our authority as a privilege that only the woman has to submit to. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, she is not valued simply for her service to the male. She's valued for her being a good mother and being a Muslim in and of herself, right? Her value is not simply based on her role. Likewise, a male's value is not simply based on his role. But when it comes to the marriage unit, right, both have the same amount of value. I hope that makes sense. I think a lot of people understood where I was coming from. So I hope you're not thinking that I think that the woman doesn't have to do anything. It's not true. Of course she does. But we need to stop complaining about women. Like, oh, this is such a gynocentric society. It's like it's all about women. It's always been about women. It's always been that way. Not because of feminism. That's just how societies have functioned. Everything has been built for the sake of women and children. That's literally what civilization has been about for the last millions of years. Come on, man. Read a lot of books on philosophy. A good book to start with for philosophy would be an existentialist book by Justin. Was it Barrett? No, Barrett wasn't Barrett. Was it Barrett? God help me. It's called. Why do I always forget titles of things? It's one of my favorite books too, and I always forget the titles. Let me look it up. Forget the stupid title. reality? Was it the reality? Something. Yeah, book name. Is it over there? Oh, it is. All right, let me get this. This is a great book to get started on philosophy. Irrational Man by William Barrett. Good read, too, by the way. Not too long. It's fascinating. Anyways. If you want to get into like analytical philosophy, you can watch the Tap Brothers. They're pretty good at that stuff. I have a lot of stuff in my library. I got more bookshelves here in front of me that you don't see. I have some book review videos and book recommendation videos online you can find in archives and stuff. Well, this is not too long. You guys need to learn to read more. This is it's fairly large type, and you're looking at 300 pages, but the typing is pretty large. It's not like small by any means. I mean, this is not a long book. It really isn't. You can get through this in a day if you wanted to. Nietzsche, nihilist. He was interesting, but very wrong on many things. There are very few duat that I still respect today. I'm going to be frank. That are still carrying the traditional way of Islam in terms of how to give dawah, who are still humble and generous and kind and have good akhlaq and adab and try even though they have flaws. But there are very few that I respect today. The dawah scene, because many of them have succumbed to this 4chan memery, low class behavior that is completely outside of our religion, and I think it's disgusting, and it's all done for clout and views, and it's just disgusting behavior. Shoaib, that particular hadith that you've noted, and I'm not just saying this as a reaction, I'm actually saying this is daif, and Imam Ghazali was also known for citing daif hadith, number one. Number two, Imam Ghazali, even though may Allah bless him for being one of the proofs of Islam, was a little bit more negative about women. Whereas someone like Ibn Rushd, for example, was a little bit more balanced when it came to understanding women. Even Ibn Hazm had some variant opinions. Ibn Taymiyyah even had some certain opinions about women. Not all scholars had similar views of women. I'm just being frank. I'm not trying to be mean about Al-Ghazali, even though I disagree with some of his sentiments. I'm saying that he's still a proof of Islam. We should still respect him, but some of his views on women were not in concordance with the rest of our tradition. I just put it that way. Yes, feminism does destroy the family unit in many respects, but so can red pill, because because it advances the abuse of women and the exaltation of the male above the woman in terms of value. And it sees them as assets, and that can also break a marriage very easily. And in fact, you're going to find very clearly, if you haven't noticed already, a lot of these red pill guys are going to start losing their marriages or not even getting married because they can't. No, I don't agree with that about the Mongol invasion. May Allah bless you more. Ibn Rushd, the jurist, was not a heretic, no. We still read his books to this day. Well, Ibn Rushd, the jurist, was also a philosopher. Are you talking about his son? I don't trust Harak anymore, and I don't trust Assad anymore, as much as I used to. I'm gonna be frank. Their contra liberalism material is decent to an extent, but a lot of it is seeped in postmodern, post-structuralist philosophy that I have really turned against over the last couple of years. Um, because some of it is just, it's really, what's the word? I'm going to just say generally it's very problematic because it introduces ideologies and views that can corrupt us and our deen very easily, especially in terms of a lot of activism that you see today. In fact, a lot of the concepts and constructs that are used by Assad and Halak are used by a lot of radical feminists. Believe it or not, it's they do, especially when it comes to narratives. Um, when constructing narratives, yeah. So I may write a paper on that eventually because a lot of this stuff they've said is just is when you really look into it deeper, when you look at it at first, it's like, oh yeah, this is really, it helps a lot, but like for our dean and understanding the world, and then you kind of go deeper and deeper into it, and you're just like, this is coming from a bad place. So I'm not Shafi, I'm Maliki. But yes, most of Malaysians are Shafi, though there is a Maliki trend there now. My friend who's Malay is a Maliki now. Um, I've been finished with my studies for a while, not Islamic studies. I mean, I'm still learning Islam to the best of my ability, but generally speaking, like, yeah, with my academic stuff, yeah, I'm done. I'm done with academia. I'm tired of learning all the time. Just I'm tired. I have too many degrees. I'm done. Just exhausted. Just want to work. Um, so I think that anyone taking up a combat art is a good thing because it not only trains your entire body to become more fit, but it also helps you to actually, it's a practical thing for you to learn how to defend yourself. Um, but if you're going to get into a combat art, don't do it just for fitness. Do it like take it seriously. I mean, not don't you don't have to go pro, but take it seriously. Right? It's not something that you just play with because one of two things can happen. One, you can become overconfident in your abilities and you can get yourself hurt, or two, you can become overconfident in your abilities and hurt somebody else, or not be, or should I say, you don't know yourself enough that you can hurt somebody else. Because when you learn how to hurt somebody, like legitimately hurt somebody, and you fight in the street and you use that move, the outcome will be the outcome that you expect. Like, so be cautious with that. It's like having a loaded gun, right? You can be lethal. So be careful. You know what I mean? Don't take it as a reason to hurt people or to use it in anger. You have to really train yourself, also your nafs, because once you start learning how to fight really, really well, the potential to harm somebody in a very serious way becomes exponential. And even to a point you can kill somebody very easily. Because believe it or not, people can die very easily if you hit them the right way. Like if you hit somebody directly in the nose or like an uppercut, you can kill somebody very easily that way. You can kill somebody by hitting them in the throat with not even a lot of force. You can kill somebody very easily that way. People don't realize how easily you can kill somebody if you hit them right. So be very cautious. That's all I'm warning you with. It's just be realistic about it, take it seriously, and yeah, the best fighters are the people who don't want to fight. Let me just put it that way. So I think Sapiens is doing good work. I've always thought Brother Hamza has done good work. We don't agree on everything in terms of ideology, in terms of our perspective on certain arguments, but we respect each other. We've always been cordial, and I admire what he's doing. And he's taken a good path about kind of stepping back from polemics and kind of just teaching and stuff. I think that's a good thing. So So it's already 2 hours. I did not expect. I was only expected to be here for 30 minutes, but you guys got me talking, and I really enjoyed the conversation. I also enjoyed some of the disagreements, and I'm very happy that we could exchange our thoughts and our opinions and our disagreements in a very good fashion, a good beneficial one, in an appropriate and cordial way. I think it's very beneficial for both of us, and I really appreciate this discussion. And I apologize in advance if I hurt anyone's feelings. I didn't mean to do that. Um, Sometimes I can be angry and sometimes I can be unnerved, so I apologize. But I hope that I was cordial with you as well. And inshallah, we can continue this behavior and this, as for benefit for our ummah, and, as brothers and sisters. Because the reality is that you know we're all really family, right? We're supposed to be family. So we need to really have this mindset that we are family, and we need to start treating each other that way. And I have, yes, I've done a DNA test. Yes, I am Spanish. And I have, so what I was going to say is that, I was sorry, that question came out to me really quick. So anyway, I've noticed that, I've also made this mistake a lot in the past, that I have not seen others as family members, and I am trying to do that. It's hard because when you're online all the time or you see these things, it's like you just see words and you don't see people, which is another reason that I left the scene a lot, because I couldn't differentiate at some point. And I understand why a lot of brothers and sisters can't do it either, because I was in that same position. But now I'm trying. And I want to kind of emphasize that we are family members. We're not by blood, but spiritually we are family members. Like, you are my brother and you're my sister and I'm your brother. So we need to start treating each other like that's true, right? So I'm going to try my best to continue that to the best of my ability. And sometimes brothers and sisters, they fight too, but they need to remind each other. We need to remind each other that this is who we are. Okay. Anyways, so may Allah bless all of you. Thank you very much for listening in. And inshallah, maybe I'll come back in a week or two and have a chat. All right. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.